Tornadoes and further intense thunderstorms sweep through Brisbane last night, and there's more severe weather on the way. Your latest forecast update. So it was a wild and in fact deadly night across Brisbane and parts of the eastern coast of Australia with severe storms. Some of those were absolutely catastrophic. One of them produced a tornado that swept through the Gold Coast that lasted for half an hour. We're going to get into the details of that and more information on the forecast for the next 10 days in this video. So make sure you are subscribed and leave a like on the video while you're at it and tell me how it can improve, or give us some feedback or a forecast from your place down in the comment section down below. So we're looking at the December 27th picture. At this time, we've got a lot to get through. We're going to start with a nationwide picture. You can see hot conditions across the centre of Australia as usual, very seasonal for this time of the year, and that'll turn into very hot weather, maybe with daytime maximas up to 45-46 degrees Celsius in parts of Western Australia, and the hot conditions will extend into South Australia and parts of Queensland as well. Storms expected for far north Queensland, basically anywhere north of Mackay. Could be seeing pulse thunderstorms this evening. There'll be further storms across Victoria and southern New South Wales, and also across Tasmania, and also in the top part of Western Australia in the Kimberley region. We're also looking out for showers in the southern parts of New Zealand for the next 24 hours, and it looks like we could be getting a bit of rough weather for the Sydney to Hobart in the final leg, as some of those yachts move into Hobart later today and into tomorrow. So we're going to also take a look at the cyclone forecast chance, because I've been saying for a while that there is a very low 5% chance of a tropical cyclone spinning itself up across Vanuatu and that area. It's not looking too likely at this time, and in fact I'm going to kill the chances for this cyclone pretty soon, because it just doesn't look like a probable scenario that this storm is going to form. But there is still some model support, and we're going to get onto that a little bit later on in the video, so stick around for that. Apart from that, we're not looking out for any cyclones for at least the next 2 weeks, and in fact it looks like we're going to move into a quiet period until probably the end of January, when we'll start to see more cyclone activity come onto our radar, which is some good news indeed. So the GFS rainfall forecast, we couldn't load windy.com this morning because of the terrible reception that I'm currently in, but this is the backup. We're looking at the Weather Nerds rainfall forecast. It's basically the colour scheme of the Bureau of Meteorology's radar. We've paused it here on New Year's Eve. You can see Sydney clear of rain, but the rain is up towards Brisbane and southeast Queensland, so it doesn't look like the fireworks are going to be a washout, but there could be a couple of showers around, especially inland around Penrith and locations inland from Sydney across the Great Dividing Range. So playing that run through once again, you can see there's just those isolated thunderstorms that remain in Central Australia, Northern Australia, seasonal for this time of the year. And as we get into New Year's at about now, you can see those thunderstorms really do fire up in the evening across parts of Eastern Australia, and some of these could potentially be severe, and we're going to get really in deep into that later on in the video on the forecast model section. So stay tuned for that, but you can see not too much in the way of extreme rainfall or anything really out of the ordinary expected over the next 10 days. It's fairly stock standard weather for the Australian summer. Now the temperature forecast, once again on Weather Nodes, because Windy refused to load this morning, you can see very hot temperatures up to 45 degrees Celsius as indicated by those whites. Anything over 40 degrees is indicated by browns, and they are very widespread across Australia. So we're definitely in full swing in summer at this time. Middle of January we're going to be getting into, and it's going to reflect in our temperature forecasts over the next 10 days. Very hot nationwide. The only even remotely cool spots seem to be Tasmania, but even those towards New Year's Eve get fairly hot indeed. You can see as we get into the 29th and the 30th of December right now, the temperatures really only soar across Queensland and the Northern Territory, and for New Year's Eve it looks like we're going to be having a mild night for a lot of locations across the nation. It's also going to be a hot start to 2024 for a lot of places, especially in the west of Australia. We're going to take a look at this cyclone or tropical low that's expected to spin up around Vanuatu. It's likely to become a tropical low or an invested system, but it's not likely to become even a cyclone at this point. In fact, the forecast maximum winds are barely at about 20 knots, but you can see that just towards the northeast of Vanuatu, about 200 nautical miles to the northeast. It really struggles to spin itself up, and in fact it kind of fails, but it could move into the Coral Sea where it could become a little bit stronger. Now we're looking at where the Sydney to Hobart race is right now, the yacht race. There's a lot of thunderstorm activity in that area that's blown off New South Wales and Victoria, so for those interested, it's going to be a wild day. But it does look like the forecast is pretty good, with strong winds out of the northeast of around 25 knots, and I can tell you some of those yachts are moving very fast at 27 knots for Law Connect. But now let's jump into the forecast model section over at windy.com. Alright, so taking a look at the national picture right now, we're looking at current rainfall and precipitation from the ECMWF model with the thunderstorm picture overlaid. Now you can see thunderstorms extending north of Brisbane right now, December 27th, 9 AM local time. Those thunderstorms are possibly severe in some places, but it looks like the worst of them are offshore at this time. There's also some strong thunderstorm activity across the Bass Strait and parts of the southern Pacific Ocean, across just south of sort of Sydney, where the Sydney to Hobart race is right now, and some thunderstorms also inland, but these look like non-severe thunderstorms, and it's just a bunch of rain moving through associated with that low pressure system that's kind of centered over Griffith, north of Canberra at this time, and that's going to be moving across Sydney, delivering some rainfall to the Sydney metropolitan area today, and some of that could be locally heavy rainfall. The chance of thunderstorms this evening is probably quite low at this time. We might get a couple of pulse thunderstorms around Bega up towards about Wollongong, and there could also be some pulse thunderstorm activity north of Brisbane around Gympie, that sort of region. But the main pulse thunderstorm activity tonight is going to be north of Rockhampton up towards Cairns and Lockhart River, concentrated most in far north Queensland, in the extreme top end of Queensland, where that's where we're going to be seeing the worst of the thunderstorm activity. But it doesn't look like we're looking out for a widespread severe or intense thunderstorm situation. Now I know I said that yesterday, and look at what happened. We got blasted in Brisbane and Sydney. But it really doesn't look like that's going to be a scenario tonight. Last night was definitely an anomaly, and it could have been the most severe thunderstorms that we have seen across Australia on any one night. It was a very scary night to track, that's for sure. So we'll jump into the future a little bit more. We're going to be taking a look at Thursday the 28th at this time. Now this is peak thunderstorm time across Queensland and New South Wales, and thankfully there is hardly anything to speak of. And this is kind of the story until we get towards New Year's, and that's when we're going to be seeing maybe some thunderstorm activity pop up again as this forecast loads in. But what I can tell you is that we are expecting thunderstorms across northern New South Wales and up towards Queensland on New Year's Eve. Now these are likely not to impact the Sydney fireworks display, which is some great news indeed, but we will be watching out for that because there is a chance that that event could get impacted by a couple of rain showers inland from Sydney that blow across Sydney Harbour. But it's not looking likely that we're going to see a significant volume of rainfall fall at that time, which is some really good news indeed, because I think everyone on the eastern states is just fed up with either rain or thunderstorms, or even both for some people. Alright, so taking a look at rainfall accumulation at this time, we've zoomed in on southeast Queensland. You can see substantial amounts of rainfall over the next 10 days expected, up to 300 millimetres north of Gympie and some of those Great Dividing Range mountains. We could also be seeing a substantial amount of rainfall fall around Brisbane and Maroochydore, and north of Gold Coast as well. We could be seeing widespread totals above 100 millimetres. Now this will be from thunderstorms, so the rainfall forecast here will be very hit and miss. There'll be some locations that pick up a lot of rainfall and other locations that pick up next to nothing. So once again, we can't take this forecast exactly at face value, but because of the amount of thunderstorms expected after New Year's as we get into the first couple of days of 2024, we'll likely be seeing widespread totals above 100 millimetres for 10 days. And if some place misses out on, say, Tuesday night, they could cop the brunt of it on Wednesday or Thursday night. So we'll be looking at that quite closely as well, and the picture will become a lot clearer over the next 10 days. Now for New South Wales, across the Great Dividing Range, there will be locations that once again pick up to 100 millimetres of rain. For the big metropolitan areas around Sydney, Newcastle and Wollongong, rainfall totals will probably be around the 25 to 30 millimetres over the next 10 days, nothing too extreme, but there will be, once again, from thunderstorms, the risk of some locations picking up a substantially higher amount of rainfall, and especially in inland New South Wales as well. It's going to be quite a wet one with a lot of rainfall expected, especially over the next coming days from the remnants of this low pressure system. There'll be inland communities that pick up to 25 millimetres, which will likely fill some of the rivers there, which is good news for farming communities. It means that we could get a good start to the crop season in 2024. Now in northern Queensland, already saturated communities, I've already mentioned the potential for thunderstorms up around Cairns and that sort of region, but because they're going to be pulse thunderstorms, it's very hard to forecast and pinpoint exactly how much rainfall or the conditions expected from them, and we'll likely only be seeing hit or miss rainfall up there, at most up to 50 millimetres. I can't foresee much more. Inland Northern Territory and Western Australia very wet as this summer pattern really does take hold, but it looks like the main story for rainfall is going to be around Brisbane up towards Bundaberg, where up to 200 and in some places 300 millimetres is expected in the next 10 days. So we'll take a brief look at this tropical cyclone as we go a lot further out to the future, if this forecast is to load. As we go a lot further out into the future, on the Access G3 model, you can see a very broad low pressure system centers itself up around Vanuatu, that sort of area. It's very weak, peak winds of 20 knots, maybe gusting to about 30 or 35 in some places, but it's nothing to write home about. What worries me is the fact that this cyclone could then move into the Coral Sea, and it will likely tighten itself up. You can see it's already starting to tighten itself up and strengthen on Friday the 5th of January. We could be seeing a cyclone form from this in around maybe 12 to 14 days time. But if it is to get itself in the Coral Sea, especially closer to New Caledonia where Jasper didn't track, we could be seeing a very strong cyclone out of this, because conditions do look quite favourable for this. But one thing's for sure, there is no immediate land threat from this system, and I can't be making comments on this storm affecting land areas because it is so far into the future that it's not even worth me mentioning, to be fair. And just a quick look at temperature as we wrap up this video. I'll wait for the forecast model to really load itself in, but we're going to go out and take a look at temperatures for New Year's Eve. So local time, New Year's Eve, the first few minutes of 2024 are going to be pleasant around Sydney. A temperature of 22 degrees Celsius, so above 20, low 20s, so it's going to be a mild night. The only thing that could keep things a little bit cooler is the easterly winds blowing onshore. You might need a jacket if you are seeing the firework display, so it could be a little bit chilly there, keep that in mind. But we'll know a lot more in the next 2 to 3 days about the exact temperature and conditions for the New Year's Eve fireworks. Up in Brisbane, a mild 22, Melbourne will be a cool 13, same with Hobart, and then across Western Australia we're looking out for a very nice night, 26 degrees as the clock ticks to midnight for Perth, and inland communities will be even hotter, with some spots up to 40 degrees Celsius at midnight. Very, very hot conditions indeed. In the tropical north, thunderstorms should keep things mild, if not cool in some places. It looks like Darwin might actually receive a pretty significant round of thunderstorms on New Year's Eve, so that will keep things cool if that actually materializes. New Zealand, the first major landmass to enter 2024, will be cool in places, maybe more mild up towards the north, and across the South Pacific, fairly warm up there. But that is basically the latest that I have on this update for the 27th of December 2023. If you did enjoy this video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. We're getting closer to 8,000 subscribers, so your support is greatly appreciated. If you got any feedback or weather reports from your location, please do give them in the comment section below. But that's all for me. I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.
Thank you for watching our content this update. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe to get more updates covering all things weather and geophysics impacting Australia and the Oceania region. Subscribe to our other channels for more content from across the network, and be sure to check out our website where you can find free access to floater and radar imagery and articles on everything weather and much more. If you wish to support us directly, you can purchase some of our merchandise. We have a wide variety of clothing and homeware, or you could become an Ultimate Fan, which is the best way to directly support us, granting you some sweet perks and offers, including features in our custom storm animations, live streams, and much more.